Amazing discovery, Waitress shocked when Grandma reveals hidden family birthmark after 25 years. Every day, Sarah poured coffee and served up cheeseburgers at the cozy diner, lost in the rhythm of the place. The regulars, their laughter echoing in the air, became a blur of faces as she wrestled with the weight of loss threading through her thoughts. It had been 2 years since her parents died, leaving her to juggle the responsibility of raising her 2 younger siblings under a roof burdened with silence. Each morning felt like an uphill battle, her dreams of escaping this life faded like the dawn light outside the window. As she wiped down the counter, her mind played over the sacrifices her parents had made, echoing their hopes for something better. Could she even think that far ahead? The constant struggle of keeping food on the table created a battleground in her mind. A single unexpected expense could throw everything into disarray. And while serving up plates of comfort food to the town, she felt an absence she ached to fill, a familial connection that only echoed back to her as an empty longing. Then that evening, as chance would have it, Grandma Ruth's raspy voice cut through the din of chatter. "Sarah, come here." A veteran of cryptic family tales, Ruth's eyes sparkled with a mischief that drew Sarah closer. With timid anticipation, Sarah wiped her hands on her apron, wondering what whirlwind of a story was about to unfold. "I've something to show you." Ruth leaned in, the world around them fading away. "Our family carries a birthmark hidden for generations. It's a symbol of resilience." Caught in the gravity of her grandmother's words, the air felt thicker, and Sarah's stomach fluttered with uncertainty. She had never heard of this mark, nor could she fathom what it could mean for her identity. Impressions of loyalty and family loyalty clashed brutally within her. What did it mean to belong? As Ruth described the mark, Sarah felt a flicker of something hope. Or was it dread? Could she embrace this lineage cloaked in mystery without losing herself amid her obligations? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With her mind racing, Sarah fought against an encroaching sense of despair. What might this mean for her, this revelation of a hidden identity? What if others knew? Would they see her differently? The entire diner seemed to dissolve around her as she realized digging deeper into her family history might unravel every carefully constructed wall surrounding her desires and fears. As she wrestled with the potential implications, a flash of doubt surged through her. Was she strong enough to bear the weight of true knowledge? The moment unraveled into quiet chaos as her heart lurched. She could almost see the threads of her family history now, more than just tales shared over greasy plates. They were a tapestry woven with struggles and triumphs, each stitch demanding her attention. But there was turmoil, too. Could she confront the rooted beliefs that stood staunchly against her dreams? In the crowded diner, time slipped as she contemplated how the birthmark connected her to a painful legacy. Just as she resolved to reclaim her identity, she heard the door chime. A familiar face emerged, a ghost from her past entering with uncertain steps. Everything she thought she knew about her family's history threatened to shift once more. The tension coiled tightly around her chest. She was at a critical juncture. Would she honor the sacrifices of the past or carve out a new path, rich in her own ambitions and dreams? Each decision loomed large, heavy with the promise of change. The air thickened as Sarah's gaze landed on the newcomer Jason, her high school crush, the one who had slipped through her fingers like grains of sand all those years ago. A familiar warmth washed over her, mingling with anxiety as his wide eyes caught hers. The diner seemed to hold its breath, every sound muted under the weight of unspoken history. She stood frozen, caught between a past that had shaped her and a present that tugged at her heartstrings. Jason, with his tousled hair and that same infectious smile, approached her with an air of awkward nostalgia. "Hey Sarah, it's been what, 2 years since graduation? His voice was tentative but filled with genuine warmth. She instinctively glanced down at her apron, the grease stains reminding her of her current life, starkly contrasting the bright future she had once envisioned. Yeah, 2 years, she managed to reply, forcing a smile. Beneath her nonchalance lurked a tempest of emotions, embarrassment, yearning, and sheer defensiveness. A lifetime's worth of burdens felt magnified in this moment, every responsibility amplifying her inadequacies. As he settled into the booth with a menu in hand, she resumed her tasks but found it impossible to concentrate. Memories raced back, shared laughter, stolen glances, dreams they had woven together in whispered conversations. She couldn't help but wonder how he had moved on while she had remained tethered, bound by the weight of her familial obligations. "Are you still working here?" His innocent inquiry echoed off the walls, reminding her of all the progress she felt she had sacrificed. Her response nearly caught in her throat. The diner was more than a job, it felt like a shackle to her past, a haunting reminder of all she couldn't escape. But in Jason's eyes, she detected no judgment, only genuine curiosity. "Just until I figure things out," she replied, adopting a defensive tone she didn't mean to wield. "You know how it is." His gaze softened, concern lacing his expression. "You okay? You seem a bit overwhelmed." Those words pulled at her heartstrings, sparking a flicker of vulnerability she hadn't anticipated sharing. The birthmark, so heavy on her mind, sat uncomfortably in her thoughts like a puzzle piece that didn't seem to fit. How could she explain her tangled feelings, the weight of familial expectations, and the glow of possibility that Jason represented? The notion of her lineage clashed violently with the vision of herself she had been attempting to build. Would revealing her family's hidden past to him transform the story she believed they could share? The thought burrowed deep within her, pushing her to see a thin thread connecting her heritage and aspirations. Perhaps this birthmark wasn't just a relic of her family's resilience but a symbol of her own potential to forge a new identity, one that didn't have to be defined by burdens but rather by dreams. A sudden surge of determination coursed through her. What if embracing this part of herself allowed her to break free? Maybe now, with a familiar face beside her and a flicker of familial courage in her heart, was the time to confront her truth. Sarah cast another glance at Jason, weighing their shared past against the possibility of future dreams. It was a risk, stepping into vulnerability, but the alternative, living within the confines of her sorrow, seemed more daunting. "Actually, I've been thinking about making some changes," she ventured, her voice steadier than before. "I might want to go back to school or pursue something different." Maybe even she hesitated, the insistent tug of self-doubt trying to rein her in. "Maybe explore what it really means to be me." Jason's eyes lit up with encouragement. "That's awesome, Sarah." The simple affirmation lifted her spirits. In that moment, Sarah felt a crack in the walls she had built for herself, a chink of light shining through. Yet, this revelation led to more questions than answers. What would it truly mean to embrace her heritage and carve a new path while shedding the weight of expectation? Trapped between the excitement of new possibilities and the fear of the unknown, she sensed a shift in the air. As she regarded Jason, a new determination flourished, knotted intricately with her burgeoning acknowledgement of family history. Perhaps there was more to her story than she had realized, the layers of her identity were just begging to be unraveled. Could this encounter be the catalyst for her transformation, or would the unresolved threads of her past continue to pull her back as she tried to forge ahead? As she stared into Jason's eyes, a challenge loomed ahead, and she was its reluctant hero. The choice was within her grasp. Was she ready to embrace the complexity of identity, responsibility, and the dreams she thought she'd lost? Somewhere within that swirl of thoughts, the ringing of the diner bell cut through, announcing another customer. But before Sarah could turn away, she caught a glimpse of an unexpected figure standing at the door, someone who could disrupt everything she was beginning to feel. The figure at the diner's entrance was unmistakable, sending an electric jolt through Sarah's spine, a tall woman with a familiar silhouette wrapped in a long, patterned coat. It was her grandmother, an unexpected visit that sent Sarah's mind spiraling into a whirlwind of anxiety and hope. The very person whose shadows had loomed over her decision stood there, bright and focused, a stark reminder of the familial ties she had long accepted but never fully embraced. "Sarah!" Her grandmother called, the warmth in her voice shooting through the stillness of the diner, drawing curious glances from patrons. Sarah's heart raced. What did her grandmother want at this hour? Was she here to discuss family obligations, or could this be the moment when Sarah finally found the courage to bridge the chasm between expectation and self-actualization? "Grandma," Sarah managed to say, masking her apprehension behind the kind of practiced smile she had perfected through years of interacting with customers. She motioned for her grandmother to join them at the booth where Jason was seated, feeling the weight of two worlds colliding. "Is this your friend?" Her grandmother inquired with an air of inquisitiveness, her gaze shifting from Sarah to Jason, who offered a gentle wave. Yeah, just catching up with an old friend," Sarah replied, a hint of defensiveness creeping into her tone without her consent. Her grandmother settled into the seat, eyes twinkling with curiosity. "Old friends are wonderful. I've always said they can help us remember who we are." The emphasis on who we are made Sarah's stomach churn. Could her grandmother sense her internal struggle? The unwelcome reminder of family history turned as sharp as a knife in that moment. As their conversation unfolded, with polite inquiries into life and work, Sarah felt a quiet urge rising inside her, a need to uncover the layers of her identity that had long been shrouded in secrecy and obligation. Jason's presence felt both comforting and intimidating. With him, she sensed the possibility of pursuing her dreams, yet she couldn't help but wonder how the undeniable connection with her grandmother would play into this new chapter of her life. What would it mean to open up about her aspirations, particularly now in the presence of a woman whose choices had partly dictated her own? But more importantly, would revealing her dream of returning to school lead to disappointment or the empowerment she craved? "Sarah?" Her grandmother's voice gently interrupted her thoughts, concern knitting her brow. "You've been quiet. Are you holding on to something?" The question cut deeper than Sarah anticipated. Beneath the surface, she felt a burgeoning desire to confront her grandmother's expectations, the birthmark, and all it represented. This wasn't merely a question about school or identity, it was about her entire existence. "I've been thinking about going back to school," Sarah confessed, her own voice surprising her with its steadiness. "I want to explore what that means for me, not just what it means for our family." There it was, the admission that felt like a dare to the very core of her reality. She met her grandmother's gaze, waiting for the fallout. Instead, her grandmother offered a small smile, but it held layers that felt more complex. "Your grandfather always said education is liberating, Sarah. I've never wanted you to feel burdened by expectations," she stated softly. "But you know our family story, it's crucial." Jason's eyes flickered between them, a mix of interest and apprehension. "But what if that story can evolve?" Sarah challenged, her heart pounding at the edge of confrontation. "What if I want to create my own narrative?" Her grandmother shifted in her seat, the tension palpable. For the first time since she had walked into the diner, Sarah felt a controlled surge of fear and exhilaration. Was she really ready to confront her family's history and embrace the gravity of her lineage, intertwined with her own dreams? Before she could dwell on the intensity of her revelation, a flicker of recognition swept across her grandmother's face, her expression shifting from curiosity to something more profound, an echo of an unspoken truth lurking beneath the surface. "Sarah, there's something I've been meaning to tell you about that birthmark you have," her grandmother began, her voice tense yet intimate, as though she were about to unveil a long-guarded family secret. As Sarah's heart raced, signaling the start of her family history intertwining with her own aspirations, she felt a chill run down her spine, a sensation that the roots she initially wished to sever might actually hold the key to her liberation after all. The air thickened once more, and an invisible thread stretched tighter, promising both revelation and conflict. What could this new discovery mean for her, for the dreams flickering to life? Regardless of the outcome, one undeniable truth loomed: the journey Sarah had set for herself was only beginning, and its path was fraught with complexities she had yet to comprehend. The air hung heavy in the diner, charged with anticipation and a hint of dread. Sarah met her grandmother's gaze, wrestling beneath the surface with a conflict that felt insurmountable. The mention of the birthmark sent her thoughts spiraling into memories she'd buried deep, a mark she'd often resented for its association with family secrets and expectations. What could possibly connect her grandmother's unyielding stories of heritage to a mere flaw in her skin? "I just thought it was a birthmark," Sarah managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. She could feel Jason's steady presence beside her, but even his reassuring demeanor couldn't dissipate the tension crackling like electricity between the two women. Her grandmother took a deep breath, the weight of it palpable, as if each exhalation carried familial burdens and dreams crushed under the guise of duty. "It's more than that, Sarah. It's a symbol of power passed down through generations, a heritage that you have yet to uncover." "Your abilities?" Sarah interjected, her feeling of disbelief surfacing. "What abilities, Grandma? The only thing it's brought me is questions and confusion." "But isn't that the point?" Her grandmother leaned in, her voice filled with a mix of urgency and gentleness. "You're on the brink of discovering more about who you are. Education isn't just about academics, it's south about discovering your place in the world, your power." The stark juxtaposition of her grandmother's conviction to Sarah's burgeoning ambition created a riptide of emotions within her, rising and crashing against fear. Was she truly prepared to explore this lineage? What would it reveal about her strengths and her limitations? "I can't just accept this without knowing what it means," Sarah said, determination igniting within her. She realized that her decision to return to school wasn't solely about learning, it represented a quest to confront the complexities that had shackled her identity. Her grandmother's expression softened, perhaps sensing the shift in Sarah's resolve. "Your mother struggled with the same mark. She tried to hide it, fearing it would overshadow her choices, just like it did with me. But it didn't have to be that way. It can empower you." Each word filled Sarah with mixed feelings. There was pain in the acknowledgement, and yet an undeniable flicker of hope began to glow. "What if I want to break the cycle?" Sarah shot back, emboldened. The notion reassured her, a defiant birthright she wished to reject, only to realize now that confronting it might actually reclaim her strength. "You already are," her grandmother replied, the corners of her mouth rising with a hint of pride. "You are distinguishing your voice amid the family echoes." Jason broke the silence, his supportive gaze resting on Sarah. "This could be a defining moment for you, Sarah. Your dreams shouldn't be limited to your past. Maybe it's time to rewrite this narrative." A deep breath filled Sarah's lungs, mingling with raw determination. She felt an awakening igniting inside, a fusion of hope and fear creating a new sense of clarity. The concept of her birthmark began shifting from an anchor of burden weighing her down to a beacon of possibility urging her forward. "Tell me everything," Sarah said to her grandmother, conviction threading through her words. "I'm ready to understand." As her grandmother began recounting tales of resilience and power embodied within generations past, Sarah began to envision how her future could be shaped, not limited, by her lineage. The promise of education now held an urgency, amplifying her need to not merely exist in the shadows but to chase the light. Yet, amidst this whirlwind of revelations, her grandmother's earlier statement echoed in her thoughts: the world would expect a continuation of the family legacy. How ready was she to confront those expectations head-on? The path forward was unfolding, lit by the flames of newfound ambition. The question lingered heavily in the air: would she be able to fashion her own destiny from the very fabric of her family's history? The moment for reflection would soon collide with a choice that could alter the course of not just her life, but her entire lineage. And then, as if sensing Sarah's brewing conflict, her grandmother's expression shifted once more, revealing an additional layer of complexity. "Before you learn your true potential," she paused, her eyes narrowing with intent, there's one last thing you need to know about our family and it might change everything." The weight of that promise loomed large, and Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. What revelation awaited her, and how would it impact her journey? Sarah could hardly breathe as she leaned closer to her grandmother, anticipation woven intricately with trepidation. The diner's familiar clatter of dishes and distant conversation faded away, muting the world around them. What was the hidden truth her grandmother was seconds away from unveiling? Her grandmother started, the words seemingly stuck within a labyrinth of emotions. Sarah sensed a hesitation, a moment where years of silence threatened to collapse upon them. Her heart raced, a tempo of gnawing curiosity and the weight of inherited responsibility thrumming through her. "Go on, Grandma," she urged, desperation edging her voice higher. "What is it you haven't told me?" The older woman's fingers twitched slightly, grasping tightly to the edge of the table as if seeking a foundation amidst the forthcoming storm. "Sarah, you must understand that this family legacy is intertwined with power and consequences. The birthmark is linked to your ability to harness energies not just from our bloodline, but from the world around you." There it was, the word power resurfacing like a specter from her past. For so long, Sarah had resented that mark for its association with fear, but now it was morphing into something enigmatic, almost magnetic. How could a mere marking guide her towards understanding energies? Energies? She echoed, folding her arms protectively across her chest. In that moment, she felt raw, exposed. "What do you mean? What kind of power are we talking about?" Her grandmother breathed deeply, as if mustering all her wisdom into this one moment. "There are forces at play in every aspect of our lives, Sarah, emotions, intentions, truths hidden within shadows. Your birthmark can connect you to these elements. Your mother understood them, but she chose to ignore them in fear of what it might mean for her choices." Understanding stirred within Sarah, battling against the recognition of her mother's choices, the same choices she now sought to avoid. But what if there existed a way to fuse these energies, a means to rewrite not just her fate, but the fates of generations? "Why didn't anyone ever tell me?" she asked, a thread of accusation woven into her confusion. "If I had known, maybe what?" Her grandmother's tone softened, though her eyes remained fierce. "Maybe you would have lived in fear of expectations, like your mother? Or maybe, just maybe, you would have embraced your heritage to shape your own story." The words ignited an internal conflict within Sarah, an urgent fight between acceptance and rebellion. The thought of embracing her lineage felt daunting, an uncharted territory filled with expectations and ambiguities. Yet, the idea of breaking free from her mother's shadow exhilarated her. What if this hidden place of power was a doorway, not just to the past, but to her future? As Jason leaned closer, his supportive presence grounded her. "You don't have to carry the weight of your family's past alone, Sarah. This is about your path forward. It's time to explore." A mixture of fear and adrenaline coursed through her veins as she contemplated Jason's words. Could she uncover more than just a family story? Could she find her own distinct path, shaped by ancient forces blended with her modern dreams? The moment felt monumental, a convergence of destiny and choice, hovering at the precipice of discovery. "Tell me how," Sarah replied, steeling herself against the uncertainty churning within. "How do I access this power? How can I use it to create my own story?" The determination in her voice clashed with the apprehension lingering in her mind, yet she pressed on, committed to unraveling the intricacies of her past. As her grandmother began to respond, painting a tapestry of knowledge and experience, Sarah couldn't shake the looming question: would she succeed in forging her own identity, or would the family legacy wrap around her like chains, binding her to expectations she refused to concede? And just as her grandmother was about to dive into the details of their family's lineage, a commotion erupted just outside the diner. A distressed shout rose above the usual din, pulling Sarah from her burgeoning revelations. Her heart dropped. What now awaited her beyond the threshold of the familiar diner, and how would it impact the fragile journey she was attempting to embrace? Sarah instinctively turned towards the diner's entrance, her breath catching as she caught a glimpse of chaos unfolding outside. A group of people had gathered, their faces painted with confusion and concern. The clattering of cutlery faded into the background, replaced by the urgent shouts of a man who seemed desperate for help. "Jason," Sarah whispered, her voice barely a tremor as she reached for his hand, "I think we should see what's happening." "No," he replied, his tone firm yet cautious. "We need to stay back for a moment. Find out if it's safe." Her heart raced, but she understood the necessity of his concern. Yet, an itch of curiosity prodded her to move, to step outside the world she had known and into the reality that was beckoning her. "Sarah, please," her grandmother urged, her eyes narrowed not just with age, but with the authority of experience. "This may not be what it seems. We have to be mindful of the energies around us." Every ounce of Sarah's being screamed for action. She wanted to dive into the frenzy, to absorb the energy of the moment, perhaps even channel it. Her grandmother's warning gnawed at her, igniting a conflict between fear and the intoxicating call of the unknown. "Let us just look," she insisted, breaking free from Jason's hand and making her way out of the diner. With each step, the gravity of her decision bore down on her, but she persisted, feeling drawn to what lay ahead. The scene that unfolded as she stepped outside was a cacophony of chaos, people yelling, others crying. In the center of it all stood a woman cradling a child, her eyes wide with panic. The sight struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning, slashing through her indecision. "Is anyone a doctor?" The woman's voice wavered. "My son, he can't breathe." In that moment, a wave of clarity washed over Sarah. It was as if the tumult of energies her grandmother spoke of swirled around her, whispering a sense of purpose, a call to rise beyond her fears and the expectations tethered to her family. Without thinking, Sarah stepped forward. "I can help," she shouted, her voice cutting through the clamor. The woman's fearful gaze lifted to meet Sarah's, and the raw desperation in her eyes ignited something deep within Sarah. As she approached, memories of her childhood sprang to life, her mother's frantic efforts to assess emergencies, her grandmother's guidance on harnessing energies. In that urgent moment, she understood the connection between her birthmark, her ancestry, and the power contained within her. "Breathe, just breathe," she instructed the child, falling instinctively into the role. "In through your nose, out through your mouth." The panic didn't just calm in the child, it resonated within Sarah, grounding her, focusing her. "Jason," she called, her pulse racing. "Get me something to assist with this." He hesitated, caught between admiration for Sarah's sudden transformation and the urgency of the moment. But then he moved, giving in to her determination. As time slowed, Sarah recalled her grandmother's words. The birthmark represented a connection to energies, which could enhance her strengths if she chose to embrace them. She felt it surge through her, a pulse aligned with her mantra of control and intention, guiding her actions. The voices around her faded into a single rhythm, and in that profound clarity, she focused solely on the child, her heart synchronized with the fragile frame before her. Minutes later, when Jason returned with supplies, he instantly recognized the shift in Sarah's presence. No longer just a scared girl caught in family dynamics, she had evolved into someone capable of unlocking untapped reservoirs of strength. As the child's breathing steadied and the woman's tears transformed into fragile relief, Sarah stepped back, gasping for breath as if she had emerged from a dark tunnel. A flicker of brightness ignited in her belly, reminding her of the power she carried. But just as she was charting this newfound territory within herself, a shadow crossed her mind, a question that pulled at her soul. What would this mean for her family legacy? And how would she navigate the layers of responsibility tied to the energies she was only beginning to understand? As the scene settled and the crowd dispersed, she turned to her grandmother, who regarded her with a mixture of pride and apprehension. The tension of her family's history loomed, and Sarah couldn't shake the thought. Would embracing this part of herself also mean confronting the uncertain repercussions it might bring? "Tell me more," she demanded, urgency flooding her voice. How do I control these energies? What else do I need to learn? As her grandmother opened her mouth to respond, a sudden wind gusted through the diner, chilling Sarah to the bone, whispering of secrets yet uncovered. What lay ahead would require every ounce of strength she had just begun to uncover, along with the realization that her journey had only just begun. Sarah, you possess a gift that runs deeper than our traditions, her grandmother began, voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of urgency. What happened today was only the beginning. Controlling these energies demands understanding, purpose, and, above all, humility. Sarah's heart raced, but she felt a thrilling warmth grow within her. It was a spark igniting her sense of self. Yet doubt gnawed at her mind. What did her grandmother know that she didn't? What was the true scope of the powers now bubbling uncontrollably beneath her skin? Humility? Sarah echoed, feeling the weight of her ancestry. How do I begin? I just helped someone. Isn't that enough? No, sweetheart. It's only the start of your journey. Power without guidance can lead to chaos. We need to ensure you harness it appropriately, her grandmother explained, eyes narrowing in thoughtfulness, studying her granddaughter as if she were an intricate puzzle still needing to be solved. In that moment, Sarah recalled the chaotic eruption of voices, the palpable tension in the air. Was helping the child just instinct, or was it something larger? She felt her very essence thrumming with uncertainty, the exhilaration of her recent actions clashing with the fear of her own potential. Let us begin with your understanding of energies, her grandmother said, a flicker of determination in her gaze. You must learn to channel them. It's not just about instinct, it's about awareness. You cannot jump in recklessly. The weight of her grandmother's words thrummed in Sarah's chest. It wasn't enough to feel the energy, she needed to learn its language, to decipher how it flowed through her own veins. But how could she balance the excitement of discovery with the caution her family had instilled? I need help finding that balance, Sarah murmured, grappling with the breadth of what lay ahead. Her grandmother nodded slowly, expression softening. Start with mindfulness. Ground yourself in the moment. We'll practice breathing techniques that will connect you to the energies surrounding you. But remember, Sarah, along with control comes great responsibility. The following days became an exploration, a methodical merger of her breath and thoughts intertwining with her growing awareness of energies. In the mornings, Sarah practiced meditation on her grandmother's porch, the sun rising just as she felt her own awareness rise. The vastness of her own psyche started to reveal itself, waves of clarity shimmered, allowing her to identify colors in the air where once there had been only noise. But inner peace was fleeting. As she navigated this newfound understanding, whispers of dread surfaced. Would she truly be able to influence the energies without cause and effect spiraling out of control? What if her intentions lead others to experience harm rather than healing? One evening, while seated at the edge of the porch contemplating the intricate tapestry of her family legacy, Jason arrived unexpectedly. He looked different, resolved yet troubled. Sarah, he began, an edge of urgency in his tone that sent her heart racing. I know about what happened. I have questions. You have to help me understand. There are things happening in town, and I think you're the key. His words sent chills coursing through her, setting her pulse racing anew. There was a gravity in his expression that eclipsed their previous light-hearted conversations. Key? To what? Sarah asked, the shadows of uncertainty creeping back. As Jason moved closer, the air thickened with tension. There's a dark energy manifesting, one that could threaten more than just the people we know. They need a way to counter it. Those words hung heavily between them, carrying the weight of her previous decisions. Did her powers extend beyond healing? Could she really confront something dark, something that loomed over her town? Sarah felt her heart dive into turmoil, the thrill of her powers giving way to a daunting reality. How could she guard against whatever unfurling chaos awaited? The moment seemed to stretch as she met Jason's earnest gaze. filled with an unyielding sense of purpose. "Are you with me?" he questioned, the urgency palpable. With every ounce of her growing strength, Sarah swallowed hard, embracing the unease and the fire that bloomed within her. A new chapter awaited, one dense with turmoil, moral dilemmas, and, she sensed, unforeseen revelations about her own potential. "I'm in," she whispered. As sunset painted the sky in fierce hues, Sarah wondered what challenges they would face ahead, and as the darkness approached, she realized that embracing her destiny would demand more than control, it would require her heart. What truly awaited them on this path of discovery remained a realm shrouded in mystery. The tension hung in the air, thick and electrifying, as Sarah and Jason stood on the edge of uncertainty. A dark energy was brewing, and she could feel its weight pressing down on her shoulder like an unwelcome cloak. It was one thing to possess the power to heal and help others, but now she faced a reality that was far more foreboding. What did it mean to confront and counter the unknown? "Where do we start?" she asked, trying to muster the resolve behind her voice. Deep down, the seeds of fear mingled with a burgeoning excitement she couldn't ignore. "We need to gather information. There are discussions happening in town, rumors about disturbances," Jason replied, urgency ringing in his voice. As they began planning, a semblance of control emerged. Yet with each suggested step, the weight of responsibility tightened around Sarah. "What if I can't do this? What if my attempts to assert control only make things worse?" she thought, anxiety threatening to suffocate her growing courage. "It's okay to be scared, but we're in this together," Jason reassured her, seemingly sensing her internal struggle. "You have instincts that are powerful. We just need to harness them." His certainty provided her a semblance of comfort, but Sarah couldn't shake the gnawing doubt. Had she already misstepped by inviting this peril into their lives? The two of them spent the following days in proximity to the shadowy disturbances Jason referred to. They explored the townsfolk's conversations, attending community meetings where warnings buzzed through the crowd like static electricity. Fragments of fear laced through their exchanges. People spoke of strange occurrences, unusual accidents, and an intangible darkness settling over the town. With each passing moment, the gravity of her powers took on a deeper complexity, as if she were clutching a double-edged sword. From her grandmother's teachings, she knew control was paramount, yet she began to recognize that connection was perhaps even more crucial. She needed to understand not only her abilities but those of the energies swirling around her. Feeling their collective pulse would inform her actions. "Let us go to the edge of town," Jason suggested one evening, excitement dancing in his voice. "I've heard of a place where things are especially strange. They say the air feels different there." The appeal of adventure, however ominous it may have been, nudged her curiosity. As they ventured closer to the secluded area, Sarah concentrated on her breath, determined to harness the skills she had worked to develop under her grandmother's guidance. The ground beneath her feet felt alive, thrumming with a low frequency that resonated deep within her. When they arrived, an uncanny silence enveloped them. Trees loomed like sentinels cloaked in shadows, and a chill brushed against her skin. "Do you feel that?" Jason said, voice dropping to a whisper. "Yeah," Sarah replied, a shiver running down her spine. The energy here was almost palpable, heavy and untamed. It filled her with both trepidation and an insatiable thirst for understanding. As they ventured further into the woods, Sarah felt her perception sharpen. Whispers of energy curled around her like smoke. The layers of vibration became distinct, shifting and changing. It was dizzying. The rush of sensations felt simultaneously thrilling and dangerous. "Focus," she reminded herself. She remembered her grandmother's words: mindfulness and awareness. But what was she supposed to do now? Dive into the unknown? Or draw back in caution? Their exploration unearthed a clearing illuminated by a smattering of moonlight, casting eerie shadows that danced around them. "Breathe," she thought, anchoring herself in an attempt to steady the chaotic whirlwind forming inside. Suddenly, her heart raced anew. Dark shapes began to emerge from the trees, flickering between this world and another, a ripple of energies that yanked at her core. Panic flash flooded her as she glimpsed a figure at the center, shrouded in shadow, eyes glinting like shards of ice. Jason. She breathed, a mixture of fear and determination surging within her. How would this encounter challenge her emerging powers, her sense of purpose? Stay behind me. Jason's protective instinct kicked in, he was ready to shield her. Yet Sarah felt a surge of rebellion. No longer just a passive participant in her destiny, she stood on the precipice of something greater than herself. With trembling determination, she stepped forward, the darkness calling to her in an inexplicable way. The moment felt like a visceral trial, and at that instant, Sarah realized she could either shy away from the unknown or embrace it fully. The decision loomed ahead of her, a defining choice that would shape her journey and test the limits of her newfound gifts. "Let us see what you're hiding," she breathed, her voice steadying as she stepped further into the clearing, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. What challenge awaited her beyond this threshold? Would embracing her true self lead to revelation or ruin? The figure before her seemed to breathe with the shadows, its form fluid and indistinct, caught in the net of moonlight that fought to penetrate the darkness. Sarah felt time slow, a tangible sensation that allowed her thoughts to spiral faster and thicker. What lay hidden within this malevolent energy? She could almost hear the pulse of ancient rhythms in the silence around her, urging her to delve deeper. Jason's grip tightened on her arm, but she felt herself drawn to the figure, as if the dark energy resonated with something deep within her, a buried consciousness that she had yet to fully acknowledge. In that suspended moment, vulnerability and strength mingled, igniting a fierce determination that quaked through her body. "Stay close, but don't interfere, okay?" she whispered to Jason, her voice tinged with an urgency she had not expected to find. It was a bargaining of sorts, a plea for both reassurance and freedom. Jason's expression was worry-stricken, yet it transformed to a hesitant nod. He understood the stakes through their unspoken bond. This was not just about her gifts anymore. Their relationship was at the brink of change, caught between the safety of the familiar and the thrilling risk of the unknown. As she stepped forward, the air thickened, wrapping around her like a cloak. Sarah felt the energies swirling, resonating with her core, whispering secrets of potential. This was not a battle to be fought with fear, but a confrontation that called upon her burgeoning enlightenment. "Who are you?" she asked, voice steady, cutting through the charged atmosphere. The shadow flickered, and for an infinitesimal moment, its eyes glowed brighter, revealing a flare of humanity trapped beyond the darkness. "I am the custodian of the fragments," it intoned, voice deep like granite, reverberating through her bones. Her breath quickened. Someone or something was speaking to her about the fragments, the scattered pieces of energy that perhaps related to her grandmother's teachings. "What fragments?" she questioned, her mind racing with the implications. "The energies you feel tug at your essence. You must learn to weave them together, or they will unravel you." The figure's gaze pierced her facade. "You've been called forth to reclaim them." Suddenly, waves of uncertainty crashed over her. Had she misunderstood the purpose of her powers all along? She had always been led to believe she was meant to heal, not to gather. But, how? She stammered, her resolve fracturing under the weight of those doubts. "Listen to the voices of the fallen," it replied, gesturing toward the trees, their branches twisting unnaturally against the light of the moon. "They will guide you, challenge you. You will face that which lurks in shadows. You must either break or become whole." The weight of its words pressed around her, pulling the very ground under her into chaos. Thoughts raced through her head, her grandmother's voice, Jason's support, the turmoil enveloping the town. It all felt tangled in a series of threads she had yet to comprehend. "No one told me this could be so intense." Her voice was a whisper, a soft concession. She never envisioned that her calling would entail this kind of grappling, with both herself and an uncharted reality. "Embrace it." The figure drew closer, no longer simply a silhouette but a being edged with both menace and compassion. truth often resides in fear. As Sarah stood anchored at the edge of confrontation, she felt her awareness expand, the unseen threads of energy around her vibrated with newfound clarity. The enormity of the choice ahead moved her. She could dive deeper into revelation or turn back into the safety of ignorance. Will I be able to gather these energies, to embrace them fully? Her thoughts spun like a whirlwind, a desperate need to transcend her limitations and become the adept she was meant to be. The acceptance of your power is the key. But beware, its voice darkened, the void seeks to consume what it cannot control. And then, as quickly as it had manifested, the figure began to fade into the shadows. Panic surged within her. Wait. I need to understand. Jason stepped forward, concern etched across his brow. Sarah. He called, trying to pull her back to him. But she stood firm, ready to breach the uncharted waters of her potential, ready to confront the skeletons of her past and the monstrosities of her unfolding destiny. Determined, she felt something switch within her. No longer would she be just a passive observer, she would reach for the power beyond comprehension. The pulse of the ground beneath her feet grew louder, drowning out doubt and feeding her resolve. I will find you again, she vowed into the abyss. What she could become held weight in the balance, and now the true confrontation loomed ahead. Was she ready to face the impending chaos in order to embrace the harmony that lay beyond? As doubt laced through her, she braced for the ultimate collision between destiny and the will to transcend. What awaited her on this fraught path, and how would it reshape her notion of self? The impending confrontation crystallized everything Sarah had been grappling with: doubt, fear, ambition, and the tie of ancestry. With each breath, a newfound resolve surged within her, sharpening her focus as shadows flickered at the edges of reality. She was on the cusp of transforming her story, one where she would no longer be bound by family expectations but rather embrace her singular identity woven from the threads of her lineage. As the figure faded, so did her initial apprehensions about her abilities. Instead, they were replaced with an understanding of the responsibility she would bear. Harnessing power meant not just empowerment but also the delicate balance of guiding energies to uplift those around her. The dread that had once threatened to consume her now transmuted into an electric anticipation of what lay ahead. Sarah, Jason's voice pulled her from her contemplation, grounded and steady. Are you okay? The concern on his face reflected both admiration and uncertainty as he observed this metamorphosis unfolding. I'm fine, she reassured him, her voice firm with clarity. More than fine. I think I finally understand what I need to do. With each step deeper into the clearing, Sarah felt a tapestry of potential unfurling before her, the essence of her ancestors guiding her forward. She recalled the birthmark, the inherited symbol that had once felt like a shackle to her family's narrative. Now, it shimmered with the promise of her individual power and a unique story just waiting to be told. Gathering energies means understanding them, doesn't it? She pondered aloud, piecing together her grandmother's teachings. I must learn not just to heal but to channel the energies to protect my family and community from the darkness that approaches. Jason met her gaze, eyes alight with recognition. Then let us figure out how. We can learn together. I'll support you through all of this. The weight of his trust fortifying her resolve pushed her beyond the threshold of self-doubt. Together, they began to forge a strategy, a melding of Jason's insights and her heritage. Through dialogue and shared experiences, they would gather the necessary knowledge to combat any malignant force. With each passing moment, Sarah's confidence solidified, layered with the understanding that her journey was not just about her. She had the power to influence the world around her, transforming chaos into harmony. Days turned into weeks as Sarah and Jason delved deeper into the world of energies. They tapped into the whispers surrounding the town, speaking with the townsfolk and keenly observing the fabric of their community. The disturbances Jason had mentioned began to surface more vividly: unnatural storms, shadows hiding at the periphery, and families frightened by the unknown. I can feel them, Sarah confessed one evening, reflecting on their conversations with those affected. These energies, they're not just forces, they are emotions, fears, the collective anxiety of the town. We need to find a way to reconcile it. With each new understanding, Sarah also through her grandmother's guidance began to practice channeling these energies, feeling their pulse resonate through her. The moments were both exhilarating and exhausting, reminding her of the importance of grounding herself in moments of stillness amidst chaos. Through the discipline of meditation, she learned to center herself, allowing light to disperse darkness rather than clash with it. Then came the evening when the first test arrived, a thunderstorm unlike any the town had seen, swirling and threatening to unleash chaos upon them. Dark clouds gathered overhead, the air thick with foreboding energy. She could feel the tension too, as if something monumental was waiting to erupt. Standing at the edge of town, Sarah could sense both fear and resolve within her. "This is it," she said to Jason, her voice carrying an unmistakable conviction. "We either confront this darkness or let it spiral out of control." Together, Jason affirmed, grounding her resolve once more. As they stepped into the storm, Sarah took a deep breath, channeling the lessons learned and experiences shared with Jason and her grandmother. In this moment, she learned to weave energies, integrating her ancestors' strength with her own, intertwining hope with courage. The moment felt surreal as she extended her arms, welcoming the storm's energy, visualizing a radiant light emanating from her heart. "You will not harm my home," she called to the chaos spiraling above her. Wind whipped around her, tangling with the forces as colors crashed against the dark backdrop. With a pulse of determination, Sarah felt the energies collide in harmony, deflecting the storm's rage. The sky crackled, but she remained firm, the fusion of her strength intertwining the energies of the town she cherished. In that moment, she realized her connection to the townsfolk, both as caretaker and protector, was now irrevocably defined. As the storm subsided, the clouds broke apart, revealing a moon that now shone brighter than ever. Cheers erupted around them as the townsfolk witnessed their weathered fears dissipating into luminous hope. In the aftermath, Sarah stood strengthened by her journey, the empowerment through understanding and a realization that she had woven herself not just into her personal destiny but into the destiny of everyone around her. There was no absence in her heart now, only a deep sense of belonging and purpose, strengths ignited by lineage, and dreams now firmly in her grasp. "Let us spread the word," she said, excitement shimmering in her eyes. "We can teach others what we've learned, help them navigate their own energies. This is only the beginning." "I'm with you, Sarah," Jason replied, admiration blazing in his expression. Her accomplishments, her transformation, had bloomed under the most uncertain conditions. The narrative had shifted. Now, she was both a steward and a creator, weaving not only her family legacy but crafting a path into the unknown that assured her own identity. As they turned to the town, Sarah realized that the power was not merely a gift, it was a responsibility she was ready to embrace fully. That night, amidst the whispers of wind and echoes of laughter, she understood one undeniable truth: she was ready to lead her story, rooted in her past but buoyed by the vibrant possibilities of her future. This was not just a conclusion, it was the inception of a new chapter, where individual transformation would ripple outward, lighting the way for all whose stories intertwined with hers. While the storm subsided, a new challenge awaited on the horizon of her destiny. It was then, amidst the throes of excitement for what lay ahead, that she knew with absolute clarity, she was ready. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the journey of personal transformation. Comment your thoughts and theories about this ending, and share this video instantaneously with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Don't wait even one more second, let your voice be heard.